My God. 3 continental strength goals putting Villa away at the Parc des Princes. I mean, Vish, it was an astonishing performance from Paris Saint-Germain.
It was, and I really like your analogy because it felt like, Villa have been on, just such a feel-good time over the last couple of years. And then what happens? You go to the continent, you have a couple of 7%ers.
Yeah, and put you on your bum.
Yeah, suddenly you're on the floor, you don't know where you are, people are shouting at you in a foreign language, you don't know if they're making fun of you, they probably are. Yeah, it was a real... I felt for Villa, but at the same time they have earned the right to be in this position, but this was a brutal lesson in just how good you have to be to get to this stage and the quality of teams that you're going to face when you're at this stage of the Champions League.
I mean, so Villa actually opened the scoring against the run of play. I think the sentence against the run of play is stretching the definition somewhat because completely unmarked, inexplicably, Morgan Rogers, the most amount of space he found all night. But PSG came from behind to score 3 amazing goals. We'll go on to them in a minute. But Doué, Kvaratskhelia and Nuno Mendes finished it off for PSG. And so they've got the 2-goal advantage heading to the second leg at Villa Park. But what could have Aston Villa realistically done after going ahead, almost poking that tiger? What could they have done against a team that was so up for pressing and performing and finishing like that?
I don't really know, to be honest. And that's as much to do with PSG being brilliant as it was Villa doing, a fair bit right. If you look at the goal that they scored to go ahead, it actually comes from a moment where John McGinn takes the initiative there because it got to a point where it felt like Villa were sitting a little too far back. They were struggling to beat the press, which is something they do really well anyway, and they're particularly efficient about it from deep, but they weren't getting much joy, and because they were sat so deep, they had to travel further to beat that second press, so it was much harder than it normally is. But John McGinn in that moment takes the initiative there and is like, oh, you know what, we're sitting off them, I'm just going to go and pressure the left back here. And he wins the ball off Mendes, and not only that, but makes a good decision to carry the ball forward and then play it wide to Rashford, who then slips in Tielemans, and he's the one who squares it for Rodgers. And that bit, I thought they did brilliantly. But, yeah, it was just the intensity of PSG. And something that you couldn't have said of PSG teams in the past. But the selflessness of PSG as well. Like, the way that they were tracking and harrying back, the way, whether it was Kvaratskhelia or Dembele or even Doué to a point, the defensive work they got through, and it was almost like they earned their right to play. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you and I have just watched the eventual champions of this whole thing because they were that good, weren't they?
I mean, like they were proving that you simply can't and shouldn't be beaten at your near post. Kvaratskhelia, his goal. I mean, there was a few people involved, but his kind of stud role that completely took out an entire player. Like, I mean, Disasi coming on for cash at half time, he changed the game because he was absolutely taken in by that stud role. And Kvaratskhelia just took him out and just rifled it as hard and as high and hit the post, the bar. I don't know what it hit, but it was just fucking travelling at some speed at the near post.
So Emery makes that substitution at half-time to take off Cash because he's on a yellow card, and he brings on Disasi, which out of context of everything is probably the right move to make, yeah?
Yeah.
But the thing that Cash had that Disasi didn't have is 45 minutes of Kvaratskhelia where he's getting used to his movements, getting used to the rhythms of how he plays.
And Disasi's not really a very good right back, let's make that very clear.
No, 100%. I mean, it's unfortunate because of his name, but there's a reason why Chelsea fans were referring to him as disaster for the first half of the season. He has a rick in him. But to be fair, that stud role, which was a thing of beauty, it would have done Cash anyway. And also, the other thing about the stud role, rolled down socks. It just makes it that much better, doesn't it?
It really does. It basically screams, I'm a fancy lad and I'm going to do fancy things. Watch me do the fancy thing. But I mean, it was just from start to finish. I think I said it in the commentary, lesser teams would have been absolutely blown away. So it was almost, without that third goal, it was almost a very, very good performance and a decent result for Aston Villa to take back to Villa Park.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, as is the nature of football, if you're an Aston Villa fan, you're going to look back and think of, a couple of what-if moments. One of them being, like, Desiree Doué's goal, which was stunning, but kind of a bit of a bolt from the blue, if that's not a contradiction, given that we mentioned Villa's opener was against the run of play. Obviously PSG had a lot of the ball, but they weren't really attempting to cut inside and bang it from 20-25 yards at a bit of an angle. What do you think of this with regards to the Doué goal? Do you think he was helped by the fact that Morgan Rogers pushes him, so he's slightly off balance, so the contact he gets on the ball is slightly different? It's
deeper, isn't it? He sort of digs it out a little bit more, doesn't he? So, I completely agree. Actually, you said in the WhatsApp, and I completely agree. It's weird how these things kind of... it simplifies your approach to hitting a football sometimes when you're kind of off balance a little bit.
I've always said that. It's why I'm one of the best players in the world, because I'm constantly off balance.
Because I've got broken ankles. I just run around the five-side pitch with broken arms. I do a lot of screaming as well. Speaking of screaming and celebrating, almost like a second after Morgan Rogers scored the opener, you did see Prince William punching the air with the naughty little boy who's always with him. He gives off real young Elon Musk vibes these days, I always think. Naughty little boy vibes. But
yeah, he wouldn't be able to get through a tutorial either, will he?
No, right. He'd be bullied, cyber bullied to win the stretch of his life. But he was sort of punching the air was Prince William, and it annoyed me because that's how I celebrate at a football ground. I'm a puncher. Are you like a Are you like a grimacer? Are you like an Alan Pardew, punch the air, kind of yes? Because that's kind of what I do, and it kind of annoyed me seeing that mirror put up with me by a much richer man. Yeah,
I'm more of a double fist clencher. Right, I'm not clenching my fist like that.
Right,
more like that. I kind of celebrate like
a pull-up, like doing a pull-up.
A little bit, yeah. Although I don't really like tense my back. I'm more kind of those animated fans you see on EAFC or like a football game.
Okay,
that's me basically.
You just do it in rotation.
4 different shirts.
Yeah. I do the ones from Street Fighter 2. I'm chasing a chicken around in the background. Why has he got a chicken?
If it's a really good goal, I will kick the shit out of a car. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. I mean, probably the highlight of I think it was the first half. It was such a busy match. It was quite difficult to get replays of the opener for PSG because there was just so much going on and we just couldn't get to it. But Martinez made a bizarre sort of recovery save from something he should have saved. I think he came off a post and he sort of hooked his hands around the back of his own head to reach, clawing the ball off the line. Just a couple of minutes before PSG equalising through Doué's curling effort, as we said before, quite a dinky sort of diggy one. But yeah, Emi Martinez was busy, played quite well, but was still beaten 3 times.
Yeah. Even the Mendes goal when he cuts inside, Martinez goes to ground really early, and then it is quick enough off his feet to put in a second dive, and Mendes goes over him anyway. But yeah, Martinez has this quality of just being able to go again. We've already mentioned video games once before, but you need sometimes to do a special move, you need your energy bar to go back up. So you need a bit of time before you complete 2 special moves. He replenishes his bar so quickly. I mean, it meant fuck all today, but he's had a few saves this season. I think to that one at Bournemouth where they're it's a bit of a no-hoper, and he just kind of flings his arms and legs around and eventually does it, which is what he did with that one that almost snuck in at the near post, as you said, in the first half. But yeah, no, it's brutal, wasn't it? I kind of, I'm not an Aston Villa fan, but I like a lot about what they do. And I found it quite a hard watch because I was rooting for the bad guys at various different points of that because they got me on side. It was like an episode of The Sopranos. I was like, you don't watch The Sopranos wanting to like Tony Soprano, but after a while you're like, I don't know, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's quite like nice having like a big chunky king to aspire to.
I mean, they are right. I mean, they are kind of like a much more likeable squad now. The superstars have left. They're much more collaborative. They just seem happier. They seem a bit Arsenal-y. Do you know what I mean? They're playing for each other, and they really do take the game to the other side as a one. What's changed there in the PSG side? I can't figure it out.
Well, there's a lot, there's a lot to be said about the egos and stuff like that. But I also think, like, it's interesting to hear what you think of this as a Newcastle fan, given, what's happened to your club over the last few years. But I always think sometimes when stuff like that happens as quickly as it does at PSG, you forget some really basic things, that you play in a lovely city, that you play in front of, like, passionate fans, and also that
you go deep in the Champions League every fucking year.
Exactly.
What a great place to play football.
But it really did seem like a bit of a tax on them, didn't it? It seemed like, oh God, we're getting one step closer to that cursed point of this, majestic competition where we lose and everyone laughs at us. And you look around that team and you're kind of happy for everyone there, which is really unsettling.
Especially like you've got your centre backs as like Pacho and Beraldo, and you're like you're so young, and you're having a lovely time. I think a lot will be made with Kylian Mbappe's lack of any defensive moves in the match against Arsenal yesterday. He didn't make a single one, and that was kind of the issue that he had in this side. They sort of let him just do whatever he wanted. He didn't want to do that defending. And it really shows the difference this time round. You had these players who were tracking back. I mean, one of the best kind of like attacking move was Kvaratskhelia going for so deep with a beautiful sort of like smash pass forward that got them about 300 yards of space, it felt like, just because he was sort of doing his doggies at the back. I mean, it was an incredible... they've just got like a team that just works a lot harder than they did when they had their kind of like mid-COVID, players of great repute. PSG felt like more like a sideshow, like a tourist destination rather 100%. Than a football team.
Yeah, there was like very M&M World vibes about them, wasn't there? I suppose that comes from also like you're essentially dealing with big kids at that point, aren't you? Certainly at that point in PSG's life cycle, where like say like if it's Neymar looking at Mbappe being like, well, he doesn't have to track back, so why should I? He doesn't have to clean his room, why should I? Why is he on free kick? I want to have I want to have ice cream. Yesterday. Yeah, I want to have ice cream for dinner.
Yeah.
And you end up with this. As it turns out, you end up in a situation where a lot of the players around that are so fed up with it that when they go, they're like, right, we can be a proper football team now. Because I think I made this point on a previous ramble earlier this year, that it's mad to think that of all the players in that particular front line, say, who would not only stay the course but emerge as a talismanic figure, Dembele to be that figure is wild to me, because he was often like... he was often the one they'd pin it on. He's so erratic and this, that, and the other. But the bigger names have moved on, and he's emerged as almost like the bigger brother of that group. Been there, done it, a lot of experience, and is just playing with all the same kind of flair, but with a bit more responsibility underpinning it. A
transformed side. I mean, it has to be said. They just look like they've got the bit between their teeth, and other bits from other matches they've got in between their teeth, and they just seem to be really going for it. I mean, like you say, I think we are witnessing the sort of rebirth of a PSG side that can really do stuff at this level, and they just. Wow, I mean, I think they've got their name on the trophy. Personally, you can interrupt your bum, to be quite frank, after that performance.